Hey, IdeateTV. I am here with Kim Gottlieb-Walker at ScareLA. And Kim, up until walking up to your table, I wasn't aware of you, but I'm obviously aware of your work. The photographs that I see are from Halloween and Christine and Escape from New York and The Fog. Oh my goodness.
I know, working with John Carpenter was one of the great joys of my life. He is the most wonderful director to work with. He appreciates every single member of his crew and is so clearly focused and knows exactly what he wants and how to communicate it. And working with him was just a joy.
So, set photography, though, is a very special niche. Is that where you developed your photography skills, or do you photograph others? What was your journey like?
Well, I started off doing rock and roll and counterculture in the late 60s and 70s.
We are such kindred souls here.
And after I had put together a whole portfolio, which included portraits I did of Jimi Hendrix when I was 20 years old and things like that.
And by portraits, you mean sit-down sessions?
Well, generally they were during interviews.
Okay.
I like to shoot during interviews because you capture real moments where people are really expressing themselves and talking about things they care about, so you get really true portraits.
Yeah.
So I had put together a portfolio, and it managed to get me a job on a little tiny low-budget movie that was so terrible it was never even released.
Okay.
But the script supervisor...
I've acted in some of those.
The script supervisor on the film was Deborah Hill.
Okay.
And she then went on to write and produce Halloween with John. So she put together a crew from all of the people she had worked with before who she really enjoyed working with.
And invited you to come down to set.
And invited me to be the still photographer for Halloween. And that made me part of John's family for those 5 films, which was wonderful.
That's absolutely amazing. My all-time favorite is Halloween. I have, as an actress, I have a goal to one day be killed by Michael Myers. I'm still, my fingers are crossed,
Making a new one. That
I
John
know.
yes.
Every time I hear, I'm like, okay, maybe this is my shot. So you did all of these films with John, and then have you gone on to do other movies as well, or did you then switch back to portraits and...
Well, Escape from New York got me into the Cinematographer's Guild.
Okay.
And once I got in the Guild, I started working on TV shows. I worked for Cheers for 9 years, and Family Ties for 5 years, and I worked on the early Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. So my career has been very varied,
Yes.
but it's been fun all the way through. I've been so lucky.
Oh my goodness. It's just, when you think of photography, I don't know, and even being in the industry, I don't know that I've ever thought of okay, but I'm a set photographer and I go from a movie to a television show. For those out there that may be interested in that career, how does that work? Is that usually more of a freelance kind of thing, or is that a contract? How does that work?
Well, ideally, you get into the Cinematographer's
Yep.
Guild. And then when you work on films, even though you work for a lot of different employers on different jobs, all of the producers on them pay into the same health plan,
Yep.
into the same pension plans. So joining the union was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because now that I'm retired, I don't have to just live on Social Security. I have my union pensions, and they provide a supplement to Medicare that covers my whole family. So it was truly a wonderful thing to be in the Cinematographer's Guild.
That's amazing. So it's very similar to the Screen Actors Guild or anything else, where you have different employers, but that's where you go, and your rate is based on what the union has said.
Right.
And wow.
And they look out for your safety, and because it can be a very dangerous industry.
Absolutely.
And what we
Well, and you're working on some really interesting sets, trying to get into the action with your camera.
Well, we always tell new members that there is no entertainment that's worth dying or being maimed for.
Yes.
So we try to make sure everybody's safe on the set. But there was never any problem with that with John, because he really looked after his crews. He really took care of us well.
What do we have here?
Well, now that I'm retired, I'm putting books together. And the first book I did was on Bob Marley, because I worked with him for 2 years. And then I put together my book of working with John Carpenter, with the behind-the-scenes things and stories from all the different crew members, because so many people got their start on these films.
Wow, yeah.
For instance, a fellow named Jeff Chernoff, who was a production assistant on Escape from New York, produced the last couple of Star Trek movies.
Wow.
So a lot of people who started off just as production
Behind the
assistants
scenes,
are
yeah.
now major producers, directors.
Not to mention, Jamie Lee Curtis.
She was only 19 when we started. You can see here, she was only 19 years old.
Wow. It's amazing. These are. I have chills. This is just this. These are the horror movies that I grew up on, and you were there photographing these images for eternity.
And they were never scary to work on. They were just fun to work on.
Right. Well, then when you saw the finished product, maybe then you were like,
yeah.
"Ooh."
Yeah, well, that turned out well.
That was kind of scary. That thing we shot today, wasn't it? So where can you have a book signing coming up? If someone's watching this here on YouTube on IdeateTV, how can they find you? How can they get the book? How can they come to a signing?
Ideally, they can get the book through their local bookstores because I love bookstores and so many of them are dying. So it's wonderful if they can order it through their local bookstore. But they can also get it on Amazon or through Barnes & Noble or any of those websites. And if they contact me through my website, which is lenswoman.com, I will gladly send them a signed book plate if they'd like to put that in their book.
Was there ever a moment that you were scared, even though, you see all the behind the scenes? I mean, Michael Meyers, for me, Christine, well, you know what he looked like underneath.
How can you be scared of this?